My name is Erica. I'm the Director of Customer Success at Listenwise. You may have attended one of our PDs in the past. You may have gotten emails from me. Welcome, everyone. Most of you look like you're pretty new, so I'm excited to show you what Listenwise is all about. And today's session is all about using Listenwise for integrated ELD. So we'll give you some different strategies on how to support your English learners, some different lesson ideas. And for most of you, because you're new, I'll just show you the ropes. So let's keep on moving here. So as I mentioned, we're going to talk about the Listenwise tools and resources you have to support your ELD goals and support your English learners, how to create easy and engaging listening activities. And hopefully by the end of the hour, you'll have some new strategies, ideas, and hopefully some lessons favorited. And I think I forgot to mention, but we will give you some time to play. We'll have a couple of 5-minute planning times scattered throughout. And if you don't have an account, do not worry. We will cover that very shortly. But for now, let's just kind of do some background here, what Listenwise is all about, kind of that 50,000 level view. We are all about boosting your students' listening comprehension with our podcast lessons, but also thinking about supporting overall literacy skills. I like to think it starts with listening, but it supports students with all their literacy skills. And we are focused on ELA, social studies, science, and ELD. So if you are, I think there's a hand or a question. Oh, we'll let them in, of course. What was I saying? So if you are math or electives, we might not have as much content for you because our main area is humanities and science, but feel free to create your account and explore. And we'll do a quick listen, but I think, yes, I have one more slide. So why Listenwise? I just want to give some California-specific info here. So a lot of other California schools and teachers use Listenwise for ELPAC and CAS prep specifically, because we have some built-in listening quizzes, which are great for test prep. And of course, Listenwise is also great to support your multilingual learners. You can easily teach content and language together, address all 4 domains of language with each and every podcast. And speaking of podcast, let's do some listening together. So let me open up and go to my account. And we just had someone new join, so I'll give you the sign-in link one more time. Okay, popping over to my teacher account, we are on the lesson page. This is one of my favorite types of stories on Listenwise. They're called Weird News. So they are special because they're kind of quick and quirky, as you can see from this title, and they're super short. They're just about 30 seconds. So it's great for a warm up, a quick do now, just a fun listen. And when you scroll down, you'll have the audio bar here. So you stream all of our content. And then we have this cool transcript built in, so you can read along as you listen. So I am going to push play and let you all listen to this podcast. Oh no, there's no audio. Oh, that's because Google gets weird about sharing. Oh, I won't do the tech. I'll try to figure out the tech support during the next planning time. I'm sorry about that, you guys. But you at least saw the words highlighted as the audio played. But no, the audio is the key part. Oof, it's these sharing permissions on Meet. I'm not as familiar with them. I apologize for that. Anyway, we'll try to figure it out and we'll come back to you, but don't want to waste time with the tech stuff. But you get to listen. You'll listen on your own. You can do that during planning times. And then I just want you to know we have 2 other key supports built in. We have the slowed audio option. So you go from full speed to about 25% slower. And then this cool toolbar that floats around, and any text on the page. Whoa, that just flew away. You can highlight it and have it read aloud. So this would be a robot speaking it out loud. Uh-oh, I know you couldn't hear that, but you at least again saw the words highlighted. So that's something you can play with during the planning time. And then we also have some built-in dictionary supports, picture dictionary, native language supports as well, which is fantastic. Defaults to Spanish, but through the little gear icon, you can change it to, we have 17 other languages that we support. So that's what we call our key listening supports: the toolbar, the slowed audio, and then the transcript built in. So thinking about some differentiation in an integrated classroom, you can provide all these supports to your ELs and remove them from your other students. And you can always listen as a whole class and use that built-in toolbar to do some, dictionary work, translation support as needed as a whole class. Last thing to point out, just as I introduce you here to our resources, we will always have some questions built in. Quick check for comprehension as a whole class. Discussion themes could be, a nice discussion prompt or a writing activity. So lots you can do with that. And I will just stress that we definitely recommend starting with whole group listens, like we just did, using these resources for some kind of quick and fun, engaging activities. And then you can think about more in-depth lessons and, using more of our tools and resources. And I will just mention upfront, but we'll get into it later, that you can create some digital assignments so students would listen on their own, do their independent activity. But again, it is very helpful to do the whole group, keep a tech easy for you, especially as you kick off the new school year. So as I go back to the slides here, let me just get set up here. And I think I saw, I'll ask a question, then we'll look at any questions in the chat box, but we'll just love to, you didn't hear it. So we won't worry about what that listening experience was like, but if there are any questions or feedback right now, let me know and let me check the chat box. Yes, we had someone join. Sorry about that, Megan. Sign-in link is in the chat box. Hopefully everyone has that now. Any thoughts, comments, questions? Not at the moment. Okay. This was not the best share. Again, apologize for the tech snafus. Let's keep rolling. So why use Listenwise with your ELs? Let's go through that at a high level. So listening, we like to say, is the great equalizer. It allows your English learners to access the same content as native speakers while also working on their English language abilities and proficiencies. And Listenwise is designed with the principles of universal design for learning in mind, as you saw with all those built-in support. So giving students the resources they need to access that content. And Listenwise is a great way to expose students to natural academic language in an authentic context. All of the podcasts on Listenwise are real world, real people speaking, different accents, different, inflections, all that good stuff. So it really is a wonderful, authentic way for students to engage with new vocabulary and just listening versus having, the cognitive load of decoding while reading content. Again, it's just a great way to help support your English learners in building their academic language. And just want to highlight for any ELA teachers today is that we can help address the common core themes that are baked into your California ELA ELD framework. So it's all about rich academic content. We have lots of activities to help students build their language and content knowledge together. And I think I have one more slide on standards. Yes. And all Listenwise lessons, there are always opportunities to develop your English learners' language skills across the collaborative, interpretive, and productive modes of communications as outlined in your California ELD standards. Obviously, we're going to focus on a couple of these key ones here, mainly the Part 1 standards. So we'll dive into more ideas on how you can do that. But before we go any further, quick refresher, and I'm going to give you a couple minutes to sign up for your account. So high level in terms of what kind of content we have on Listenwise. So I mentioned mainly ELA, ELD, social studies, and science. That silly, weird news story that I showed you, that's part of our current events collection. So we post those throughout the school week. We're currently on summer break, but we will be coming back very shortly. And then we have Gen Ed and ELD lessons. These are standards and curriculum aligned, have some extra teaching resources like a teacher's guide, embedded organizers. So lots of great teaching resources. And our ELD lessons there's about 100 of them. So a smaller collection, but all about supporting more emergent ELs, lots of extra scaffolding, big focus on language. And I'll show you examples of all of those in a minute. And then just, digitally, if you do create assignments, and I'll walk through each of these, but there's two options, either more open-ended writing focused assignment where you can embed those organizers, those comprehension questions, discussion theme questions I showed you on that weird news story, or you assign a multiple choice auto-graded quiz. So one is more open-ended, writing focused, and then one is just, like a pretty straight assessment, multiple choice format. And that is our great ELPAC prep tool. So definitely recommend quizzes if you want to experiment and explore assignment options and sign up. So let me give you a second here. I have 2 minutes on the clock. So if you've maybe used Listenwise before, you can just log back in at Listenwise. We'll recognize you. You don't need to sign up or enter anything new. And if you are totally new, I have all of your codes here on the screen, but I'll also plop in your quick start guide, which has a bunch of links and lists all of the premium codes. So you don't have to type it out. You can just copy and paste. So I put that in there. Let me start the 2-minute timer. Let me know if you have any questions, concerns. I think I saw something. Let me go up here. Does it sync with gradebooks? We have some Google Classroom integrations, which would include some grade syncing with Google Grades. But if you use a different system, no, we do not sync with that, like an Aries or something. I'm not exactly sure what your district uses, but we do not sync with them.
Just use Synergy. I just, because you were talking about the auto scoring.
Yes. So our quizzes will be auto-graded, but then you may have to then add those grades to your gradebook. But yeah, Google, we would integrate with that gradebook if you then could integrate with your other system, but no direct link for that, unfortunately. Good questions. Keep them coming, but about another minute here to let you get signed in or logged back in. All right, just about 10 seconds left. I know that was quick, but you'll get another longer planning time pretty soon. Oh, gosh, that timer was loud. Am I? Okay. I saw no panicked SOS tech questions in the chat box, so assume everyone is now logged in. So now we're going to dive a little bit deeper into how Listenwise tools and resources can support your English learners. So let's kick it off. So as I said, everything starts with listening with Listenwise, but you can work on all of the literacy skills as I've alluded to. So while listening, we have that transcript built in. You could even print it off, do some more annotation and reading practice. We have the built-in questions, so easy speaking practice or some writing practice, but you can definitely make a lesson that hits on all 4 of those. And to give you more information on how we can work on all those skills, with the listening and the reading, you can customize, as I showed you, the transcript and the toolbar for students who may need that. Speaking practice, we have some reflection protocols along with the built-in questions, so giving you activity ideas and supports to help teach the content. And again, the writing and speaking will have some built-in comprehension discussion theme questions. So that's great for, sharing opinions or, summarizing stories, etc. So speaking or writing practice. And then we have some wonderful built-in graphic organizers to help students stay focused while listening, take notes, make sense of the content, and summarize as well. And all of our Gen Ed and ELD lessons have standards alignment for grades 2 to 12 for ELA, Social Studies, Science, and ELD. So when you're in a lesson, you can see it. I will show you where to find that. Or we have a browse by standard option, which lets you see every lesson that would help you meet a specific standard. So 2 different angles you can take with that, and I'll show you both when I do a demo very shortly. But before that, let's go through those 3 standards on the part 1, ELD standards, and let's just talk about some ideas for how we can meet them. So first, collaborative standards. I think the most natural one here that we can help with Listenwise is number 1, exchanging information ideas with others through oral collaborative discussion on a range of social and academic topics. So listen to Listenwise, then have students discuss the content together with those built-in questions, discussion prompts. So that's a quick way to do that. I also think number 3, offering justifying opinions can be really helpful. So every story has built-in discussion theme questions. So that would allow students to state their opinion, justify it, etc. And this can be done, more casually in a turn and talk, small group, whole group. So lots of ways you can apply it, but very easy to engage your students in academic discussion with a Listenwise lesson. Number 2, interpretive standards. Number 5 there will be applicable for every Listenwise activity you do. So listening actively to spoken English in a range of social and academic contexts. So every time you have students listen, then you can have, again, that check for comprehension with those built-in questions, making sure they understand the content, as well as we'll talk about it, but our listening quizzes, that's a really easy way to assess if students were able to listen and answer questions on the topic. And then the other standards, we can help with some other, embedded resources, the multimedia, the different texts on that said topic. So you can get a little bit deeper with those standards with Listenwise. And then last but not least, our productive standards. So more writing focused with these. So this is where we highlight number 10. So writing literary informational texts to present, describe, explain ideas. And I know under that is also summarizing. So Listenwise can be helpful with that. As I mentioned, we have graphic organizers, so some note taking, and then helping them summarize that content of what they heard. And then for number 11, justifying own arguments and evaluating others, we have debate stories on Listenwise. So that can be great argumentative writing practice, again, stating opinions. And those debate stories can also be used for those collaborative, more speaking focused standards. So lots of ways, again, you can meet multiple standards, work on all the literacy skills via a listening activity. Okay, so let me do another demo and I'll show you where all of those resources I talked about can actually be found. So I'm going to go from the story we were listening to back to my dashboard and point some things out. So if you maybe used Listenwise in the past, it might look a little different to you. I just want to note we used to have more of a blue menu bar, more blue on the website. So we did a refresh over the summer. So this may look a little different, but all the same content is here. First thing to mention, though, as we think about the new year getting set up, if you want to assign work to students, you must create classes. So we have a quick link to add class here. None of this is done automatically in the background, but you can import your Google rosters from here. So click the button. I'm not sure if your rosters are ready, but there's that. But content, let's focus on that. So we have a lesson feed with our most recently posted content. Again, we've kind of been on summer break, but we'll be posting content probably in 2 weeks, early August. You can also browse our lesson collection. So you could go into the social studies collection as an example and see what's there, or pop into the ELA lessons. Again, this is just browsing to see what's around and available. We have our fabulous current events. So these, again, are posted throughout the school week. We listen to weird news together. So those quick and quirky 30-second stories. I mentioned debates being really great discussion prompts, writing activities. So you'll see they're all posed as a question. So again, right for discussion, we try to pick content and questions that students would find engaging and interesting. And then you can always search by any topic as well. So, I have animals here. Who doesn't love an animal story? So we'll search for that. And then, of course, you can use some filters for the subject areas. If you're just looking for a standards aligned lesson, you can dig in those ways. Last but not least, standards alignment. So come to the standards page. Let's go down to the EL standards. I'll just open up 7th grade. It takes a second to load, so we'll see how this goes. It can actually like take forever. Sometimes it has to pull all this information. But after a few seconds, it will load, and then you can see specific standards and what aligns to them. Okay. We'll come back. I feel like we're having tech difficulties today, but we're making the most of it. Let me just open up a new tab. All right, let me just go into, I'll just go into a science lesson here. How about this Mars exploration lesson? Looks great. So want to point out all those resources I mentioned and what's available to you. So scrolling down on our Gen Ed and ELD lessons, we'll have this tab called the Teacher's Guide. And this is helping you teach the content. So before, during, after students listen. Again, a great way to help support students while listening, the different organizers available to you. This is really geared towards whole group listening. And then some ways to reflect afterwards. You may see a paired text. So again, having students compare, contrast, which is a great extension. And then here's the standards alignment on a specific lesson. So we can open up our ELA. Well, let's go to ELD. Let's go 4th grade for this example. And then you can see all the standards that will meet with that particular lesson. Let me go back. Hopefully it's loaded by now. Very good. Okay. So you can see for this particular standard for emerging ELs, you can open up these lessons will help meet that standard, or these ELD lessons. We just have the 2 sections. And then you would just click into it and it brings you to the lesson. But you can't like search and explore within here. It's just a list. Okay. But back on our lesson page, that's a teacher's guide. So everything to help you support students and teach the content. Then I like to think of the assignment resources tab as the student-facing activities that you can use. And this, you can plug them into digital assignments, or maybe you just keep it whole group. So again, you can discuss these questions together, this why or why not. Again, great way to have students, share their opinion, provide evidence, more explanation. So that can be a nice writing activity or speaking practice, or both. Maybe have students, talk to each other about their opinions, and then the follow-up activities to have them write it down in a couple of sentences or a paragraph. Vocab words for some pre-teaching. And then here are the organizers to help with some close listening and supporting students while listening. So either like a fill in the blank, we'll have T-charts, etc. So they'll differ for each lesson, just depends on, what the lesson is and what content is available. But again, great way to help students take notes, summarizing that writing practice. So again, working on all the literacy skills, you can easily do that with every Listenwise listen. Okay. Assignment options. Let's just touch on them. We'll talk about the quiz next, but I just want to focus on this create assignment option. So this is where you can pull in all of the materials on this tab. So go here if you want to do that. What's great is you can customize your assignment as much as you want. So you may make 3 different versions if you have 3 different levels or groups of students, but you do need to name it. So I'll call this scaffolds. It's my first version. What you can customize. Do you want them to see the transcript? Do you want them to see that little toolbar with the read aloud and the translation options? You can always uncheck it if you want, but I will keep it there. Organizer. You can choose one organizer to embed digitally, and you can get a quick preview there. And the question. So all pre-built for you. Maybe you did a couple of these as a whole class and talked through them. So you want to delete those. Maybe you want to add your own question or edit existing ones. It's totally up to you. And then if you want some extra resources, articles, links, images, again, just supporting students or allowing them to explore more if it interests them. And instructions would be last. I will skip through instructions just to save time. But what did we just create? So there's a preview button once you get to the assigning page. And here's our assignment. So we see all the supports, the toolbar, the slowed audio, the transcript below. And here are those links we included, our vocab for reference, the organizer built in, and then our questions. So if the preview looks good, you are ready to assign. You can come back to your signing page and assign it to multiple classes at once, or maybe to individual students in a class. Just click the class name. So maybe this is going to your English learners. You check them off, due dates, etc., etc. Google Classroom integrations. So this is how you post the assignment link to students in Google. And we now have a scoring option for written assignments. So you would manually score it, but you can have it automatically sent to your Google Gradebook with that checkbox. Okay. I now just want to quickly show you, before I give you a few minutes to explore on your own, our ELD lessons. So as I mentioned way back, ELD lessons, about 100 of them, and they're all focused on supporting more beginner to intermediate English learners with some different resources built in. So I'm going to just click into here and I'll show you the difference. So one of the big ones visually you see, there's some embedded videos. So you can do some watching before listening to the podcast. So that's a great background builder. And then the other great resource is automatic Spanish translation. So all of the text that students see could be translated, subtitles on the videos. And then most importantly here would be a Spanish transcript. It is not interactive. It's just a transcript, but students would be listening in English, but they could see the Spanish translation. So that can be a really great support. We'll go back to English though to finish this up. And then we still have our teacher's guide. It's just ELD focused, so more about like differentiation opportunities and a lot more supports and scaffolds, pre-teaching vocab, multiple listens, different activities. And then these student resources, we have questions, discussion themes, etc. But you'll notice more simplified language, different vocab lists and a gen ed lesson, different organizers, again, just for our different student audience. Okay. I think we covered everything, at least for this section. So I'm going to give you 5 minutes now just to play around. So I do have a worksheet for you if you like taking notes on what you're learning and don't want to forget it. I'll throw the link into the chat box and you can make a copy of it. Essentially, it's just having you, take notes on different strategies that you can use to work on the different literacy skills, or if there's specific ELD standards and how you want to use Listenwise for it, jot it down now. But feel free to note that wherever it makes sense for you. Okay, we have 5 minutes on the clock, so I'll start the timer, but feel free to ask questions, ask each other questions. Oh, there's a hand. Go for it.
I'm wondering about using this as a common formative assessment. And I see that, things are pre-made and I could easily just tell my team like, okay, I'm using this one, you can use this one too. But I'm thinking about like some other softwares that we've used where we can, within the webpage, see each other's data. I'm wondering if there's any way to see that.
We don't have that specifically built into our platform, but that is a good question and concern. The one way you could do it is you can be a co-teacher on another teacher's class, and then you can see everything that they're assigning to their class. So if you are using the same students, that would be helpful. But if it's more just team sharing, there's nothing, unfortunately, built into the platform. Yeah, you're welcome. That might not be the exact answer you wanted, but it's what we have right now. Any other comments, questions? We have about 4 minutes left. Poke around. And I'll mention, so after this, I'll give you some more like specific lesson examples, and I'll dive into quizzes and show you how those work after that. Okay, about 30 seconds left in this planning time. We'll have another 5-minute planning time before we wrap up. But any comments or questions so far? If anyone's finding stories they love, I love hearing about them. So throw the links or titles in the chat box. Okay. There is our timer. Ooh, there it goes again. Okay, a little sharing time or question time. I give us 90 seconds to share and ask questions. Would love to know, which ELD standards are you looking at? What activities are you planning to do to help meet those standards? Or if you just have any general questions for me. With about a minute to go through it. Warm-ups, yes. Ooh, thank you for sharing. Listenwise, there's so much you can do. Like, it can be over, multiple days. You really get into the content. You do multiple listens. You have organizers, etc. But it also can be a really quick warm-up. So it can be easy, stress-free for you, easy to plan. But the key is students are listening. We just need them to listen. It's, something we're not having them explicitly do. So it can be a challenge to work that muscle, but well worth it. Any other comments or questions or things to share? I have 20 seconds left. Okay, here comes the bell. All right. We'll move on. Oh, I see things in the chat box now. All right. Oh, no, you can't hear me. Is that true?
We can hear you. We just can't hear the timer.
Oh, gosh, that annoying Google sharing. Okay, noted. Thank you so much. I will now make a ding myself so you all know. Okay, setting boundaries. Yeah, first 2 weeks. That's good. Start small, I always say. Listenwise, there's a lot in here, which can be great, but it can be overwhelming. So start small and build, and you'll figure out what works for you and your students. You'll get into the groove. So teacher stories, lesson ideas. I want to give you something for every subject area. And here's actually a story from Ingrid, which I don't think she's here today. She usually comes to a lot of my PDs. But Ingrid, I believe, is at Salinas High School. And she just gave an example of how she uses Listenwise. And I want to focus on, let's see, which quote. Okay, so she says, for example, I use the writing sections to assess students' complete sentence writing. And then she can review their work, give feedback, and make corrections. So there's a great way to have that feedback loop. And I'll show you how to do all that in a moment. And then she mentions the quizzes are also great. And you just see she does a lot of different strategies, working on lots of different literacy skills. So again, it's not just about listening. It's about all the literacy skills. Okay, so that's one example. All right. Thinking about how you can actually implement, let's get into some more of the nitty gritty. So teachers will use Listenwise in whole group, small group, individual settings. Often they're going to incorporate 2 or more of these types of ideas. It's all about maximizing student engagement and learning. There's so much value in that individual work with students plugged in with their headphones, but Listenwise, I think, is best when used in the more collaborative, engaging, group setting. So I recommend kind of trying to think about all those different angles and, changing it up throughout the weeks and months. And as I mentioned, we definitely recommend starting with whole group. As we mentioned, a quick bell ringer, current events, what's happening in the world. We have a bunch of SEL collections, so that can be nice getting into the new year and learning about each other in classrooms. And again, how to do it. As I said, a do now, it can be really quick. It can be a more in-depth, actual class debate or class discussion or a think, pair, share after listening. But we recommend using it at least once a week for at least 15 minutes. Some teachers do a lot more ELD focused. We'll use Listenwise more frequently, but again, 15 minutes at least once a week, which a quick do now or a quick write or an exit ticket is the way to do that. Okay, some specific lesson ideas here. So here's ELA, but this can be applied to any classroom. Introducing a new topic. So teachers love using Listenwise to build background on new units, new topics, novels. So we have this example of Mary Shelley and Frankenstein. So building context for new learning. So introduce a new unit with a Listenwise lesson. We like to think about the before, the during, and the after listening. So before listening, you can facilitate some type of turn and talk, having students talk about what they know about the topic. And then you can listen as a whole class to the podcast. Maybe listen, 2 or 3 times, depending on what your students need, with the option to have them fill out an organizer or just be taking notes. And then after listening, you can walk through and answer the comprehension questions together as a class. And then you can segue into connecting to your new unit of study, your new novel, etc. So again, this is all whole group, nice and easy, no tech headaches, keep it simple. Here's a science example. I know it can be hard to sneak in some writing practice with science. So we have a ton of fabulous science-related, specifically current event stories on the platform. So make it an exit ticket. So listen together as a class, discuss the comprehension questions, make sure they understand the content, and then you can have a follow-up activity as an exit ticket. So either in platform or on paper, maybe have them answer one of the discussion theme questions or have them summarize the podcast and what they learned. There's so many different ways you can go with this, but like a fun exit ticket at the end of the day. And that can be a nice weekly routine as well. And then last but not least, social studies. As I mentioned, we have really fabulous debate stories, part of our current events collection. So that's a great way to practice academic discussion. So 2 options you can take: actually hosting a class debate. You have students on the pro and the cons team. They brainstorm, they research, to talk about their side, and then you actually have a debate. You can keep it more informal and quick and short and have that just be turn and talks, discussing the pros and the cons. We have a debate organizer. Let me put that link in the chat box, which just helps students organize their notes and their thoughts. So that is an option for you. And then you can then take that and do a little writing practice as well. So I love the idea of you pair the speaking, the writing, the listening all together. Okay. And then ELPAC, want to mention this again. We are great prep for the listening and the reading portion of the ELPAC, as they have to listen or read something and then answer multiple choice questions on the text or the audio. And let me go to the next slide. Here we go. Okay, here we're Listenwise quizzes. So we have our built-in listening quizzes, multiple choice, auto-graded. And what's really cool is we assess and track specific listening skills. So you can, monitor progress throughout the year. So we recommend not just doing quizzes, right? Like in the boot camp, crunch time, integrate, weekly quizzes with Listenwise. So they're really working both on just that test prep piece and their listening prep. So let's go back to the platform, and I want to show you quizzes, and then I'll show you how to review all digital work, because we did not do that before. Let's see. I did not specifically point out our collection, so let me do that now. So we've been working on adding new collections, and we're still adding them. I think they'll be ready by August 1st, but we'll have over 100 collections, different themes you may be teaching, either by subject area or by grade level. So we see our human origins, middle school, and then you can see kind of the best of the best on that topic, and then you can pop into the lesson and then teach that with your students or assign it to them. So speaking of assigning, let's go through the assigned quiz. So as a reminder, the create assignment button will be that more open-ended, customizable, embedding the organizer, the comprehension questions, etc. Quizzes, fully different questions. Again, each of them testing specific listening skills, and it's all auto-graded. So those are the 2 paths you take. And a lot of teachers assign both of them, doing the written assignment first so they can really dig into the content, and then you assess with the quiz after. But they're separate assignments, so you'd have to set each one up on their own. And then the quiz. So I've talked a lot about supports, but just want to mention, if you want to challenge students just to listen, you can remove everything. So they just have the audio bar and they just have the questions. So let me just click through the quiz. Again, you don't have to do any creating of your own questions, etc. And it is all auto-graded. This is a fully functioning student preview. So I will submit. I did not guess very well, but auto-graded, all done for you. Teacher favorite for sure. Going back to the assigning page. Okay, it's just like the written assignment where you can assign it to all of your classes at once, due date, and then here's where you post the assignment link to Google Classroom, and you can have the quiz scores when students submit sent to your Google Gradebook. You cannot add or edit any of the questions because we have strategically, created each question for each listening skill. What you can decide, do you want students to see the transcript, the audio, the text help toolbar in their assignment, or do you not? So you can set that at the class level or at the student level. So maybe everyone gets this quiz, but you only want a few of your students to get those extra supports. So that's how you can customize and support specifically your Ls. Or maybe you only want certain students to be taking this quiz and you're going to assign another quiz, another topic to other students. You can also do that. Okay. Reviewing work. Let's go to our dashboard and we'll talk about that. Once you have assignments, they'll be up here with your tasks. So quick links to the quiz data. Again, I have lots of classes here. If you need to set up your new classes for the new year, there is an add class button where you can import your rosters. But reviewing work, let's get into it. I think this will be my best class. Yes. Okay. So a couple of assignments I have upcoming. Most of my students have submitted work. So let's click into the quiz report. So again, all auto graded. You can go and check overall performance or student performance. And then, as I mentioned, we test different listening skills. So in this one, we tested literal, vocab, main idea, and inferencing. And then you'll get the overall student performance where you can see how students did. So lots of data here. You could then click into one student and then you'll see all of their quizzes across all the listening skills. So that's, again, where you can see that progress and monitor students over time. And then our other assignment type, as I mentioned, open-ended. You do have to go in and grade it, but there is the ability to leave feedback and allow students to make changes. So it's a great feedback loop there. And then this would be a student's assignment. They have their answers there. And then we can leave feedback and we can also grade it. So a score out of 5. Not required to do either, but you definitely can do both. And then that's where if you want students to make some changes to their assignment, it would unlock it for them. And then you'd either submit or next student and it would bring up the next student to review. So you do have to go one by one, but you can easily score and go through all of your students. Okay. I think we covered everything. I hope that was a helpful tour of the platform. Sounds like you guys have some ideas for how you're going to use Listenwise. And just thinking in our last about 10 minutes together, what's next? Let's give you another planning time. But before I do that, just thinking about your implementation logistics. So when you're thinking about your Listenwise lesson, is it whole group, small group, individual, a combination of that? Which day are you going to do it? What makes sense? Will it be a fun Friday thing? Will it be 10 minutes, a warm up? Will it be a longer lesson? Just thinking about what you need. And then also what online, offline components, will you make things digital? Do you need to print something off? Do you have to prep anything? Things to think about. And then that combination of the before, during, after, again, thinking, mapping out your lesson in that way. And then of course, which ELD standards, how can we support our English learners? Any of those differentiation opportunities, also think through that. So 5 more minutes on the clock to wrap up. In that worksheet that I gave you the link to on the second page, I believe there's a lesson planning option where you can then go through before, during, after. What are your goals? What are the standards? So you can do that if you're ready to do some lesson planning or just continue to explore Listenwise, find stories, do whatever you need to do. But we'll start the timer for 5 minutes. And then after that, I'll give you the link to the, I think, feedback link for your district, and then we'll wrap up. But throw any comments, questions in the chat box. in our last few minutes together. Okay, just a couple of seconds left in the planning time. I'm throwing one link, let me see here, into the chat box. It is a Drive folder with the slides, the worksheet, the debate organizer, everything I shared today is in that folder, and hopefully we'll get this recording added to the folder as well. And I will make sure to email you all out afterwards with that link, and you'll have my contact info in case you need anything. And we have technically 8 seconds left on the clock here. You can't hear the ring. Thank you for letting me know, but I heard it, so we'll move on. Okay, link coming at you with the feedback. That is in the chat box, the tiny URL. And then after you do that, would love to hear one thing you're taking away from this session. So throw that in the chat box, but any last comments, questions, concerns? We got about 5 minutes left together. But I'll give you all a few seconds to fill out the form. Okay, so after you fill out the feedback form, share your one takeaway. And then after you've done that, if you don't have any questions, you're free to hop off. I know you have a day packed of lots of learning, so I want to give you a couple minutes to breathe between sessions, of course. And as I mentioned, I'll email you, but you can always reach out, eric@listenwise.com, here to support with whatever you need. Thanks everyone for coming. Happy listening. Have a great day.